Hey everyone, welcome back to the Photobooth Supply Co YouTube channel. My name's Cameron with the Photobooth Supply Co success team, and I am here again this week with Catalina from Modern Photobooth. How's it going, Kat?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, good. I know we were talking about it a little bit. It's a weird week, but it's a good week. So, well,
Nothing is working today.
yeah, it's just one of those weeks. But I think everybody can relate to it, and this
Look
year
at my
has.
hair. It's even staticky now. Like it looked fine a minute ago.
We started talking about we jinxed ourselves. Okay, we're gonna move on from that. We're not gonna jinx the rest of the live. Thank you everybody for joining us. As we've kind of mentioned the last couple of weeks, we are on definitely a more consistent live schedule. So you can find us here every other week on our YouTube channel. It always sounds super YouTubery to say this, but if you haven't already subscribed to the channel and like this video, you can also turn on notifications so that when we go live in the future, you'll be notified right away and you'll be able to find the video without having to have a direct link for it. And yeah, it's always so weird to say that. It sounds so YouTubery.
Please subscribe and like. I have
Yeah.
to say it in every video, and you get to say it once or twice a month. Like, come on.
No, the thing about it is I talk about it in all of the onboardings. I'm like, okay, just to preface this sounds very YouTubery, but we do have videos on our YouTube channel, so make sure to like and subscribe. But yeah, it's I don't know, it'll always sound kind of YouTubery. So hey Charlie, how's it going? Welcome to the live stream. So this week we're going to be focusing a lot about pricing your booth, and really we've seen a lot of booth owners starting to do more in-person events. I know that the snowstorm that's kind of affecting everybody has thrown everybody for a little bit of a loop, but in general we're seeing a lot more booth owners start to have in-person events in different capacities, and I don't think that's going to slow down anytime soon. Kat, you can kind of tell us a little bit about what you've been seeing with your booth business and in-person events.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have any in-person events right now.
Sure.
So here where I am, we literally just got out of strict lockdown. What's the date today? Thursday, so 2 days ago.
Sure.
So we still can't have events or anything like that. So we're doing strictly virtual. We're still seeing a lot of activity with virtual happening right now, and that's what we
Sure.
are promoting until the summer. Really, we are starting to quote a couple of things for the summer. I don't want to jinx it because, well, today
Knock
has
on wood.
already been, yeah, knock on this IKEA desk.
Yeah, right.
I
I'm
think
gonna
there's
leave a
wood in there
dent in my
somewhere.
desk by the end of this live from how many times I'm knocking on it.
Yeah. But hopefully we'll see some stuff in the summer. And I know in the US, I hear a lot of people are already doing
Yeah.
events, and so that's great if you can do them safely. But
Yeah, of course.
events are coming back.
Yeah, that's good. I think I mean, we've all been waiting to see it, and it's nice to see, like, even like what you said, quoting in-person events. It's something that a lot of people haven't done in a long time. So just, the fact that people are interested and people are starting to ramp up for in-person events. I know I've talked with a couple booth owners throughout this past week, and a lot of them have said kind of the same thing, that they've been quoting a lot of events for this summer, some as early as, May or June. So good. It's a good sign, but until then, we'll just kind of keep moving forward with virtual booth, and people are having a lot of success with virtual booth, you included. I know you've mentioned it. So, like I said, this live is really going to be focusing on pricing, but also marketing and how to kind of answer some questions that we've been getting. I think after some of the other YouTube videos and lives, I think for a lot of people, they just still don't understand the best way to market, especially when it comes to virtual booth, and the best way to market it and really show value with it, right? And that's why, maybe if you've been in the last couple lives, it might seem kind of repetitive that we're talking about it so much, but it is a new thing, right? And with anything that's new, it takes time to really learn how to perfect your marketing strategy and to perfect even just explaining it to people, right? And really explaining what virtual booth is, because for a lot of people, it's completely new. So Kat, I know one thing that you've mentioned is that we've kind of talked about the starting price of a virtual booth, really starting at $500. And I think some people think that that's kind of the limit to virtual booths. So tell us a little bit about pricing. What's kind of your average when you're working with these virtual booths? What's been the average price point you've been seeing with your clients?
So when we first started, our average was around $1,500 for the first day, and
Sure.
then we charge a little bit less for subsequent days, depending on whether or not, like, we need to do any work. Generally
Yeah.
speaking, it's just letting it run.
Right.
But right now, we're averaging between $2,000 and $2,500
Okay.
per event. So those can be most of them are multiple days. But
Sure.
again, like the bulk of our pricing is in the first day, just getting as many items into that booth package as we can to make sure that their event is as successful as possible. I don't mean just stuffing everything possible. It needs
Right.
to make sense.
Yeah.
But with virtual, it's really important to have as
Sure.
many tools as you possibly can active.
Sure, sure. And I mean, now, like I said, we've talked about this in the last couple of lives, but now with the newest update to Salsa's virtual booth, I mean, the differences between a virtual booth and a physical booth, there are very few differences at this point. Now
Yeah.
that you have masks and filters and you have the customizable interface, they're really becoming one and the same. Granted, there are still a couple of differences there, but I guess one question I've been getting a lot from different booth owners who I've spoken with, and just to kind of throw this out there, if you guys have any questions, anybody who's watching, feel free to throw them into the chat. We're happy to take questions and answer them as we go along. But one of the questions I've been getting is you're charging very similarly to what you would charge for an in-person booth, right? But there are still differences, regardless of the fact that the update has really minimized some of those differences. So how do you compensate for those differences, and how do you get to the the $1,500 mark that you're talking about? What are some of the things that you use, or some of the ways that you market the booth to get to that amount?
Well, okay, so there's a few different things. First of all, when somebody calls us and says, "Hey, we want a virtual booth," it's really
Hmm.
important to find out like why they want a virtual booth, because
Sure.
assuming that they know what a virtual booth is, they're probably thinking it's to take pictures and that's pretty much it. When
Right.
really you can use that as a tool to help with engagement, and that's really key. So
Sure.
we always ask them like, what are they really trying to get out of their event? Not out of the photo booth, but out of their event. And then we try to custom build the photo booth based on that. And we don't ask what their budget is ever,
Okay.
uh, because we tell them what we think is going to work best for them and why.
Sure.
So I'll always start off with my base package, which $500 for 1,000 people.
Hmm.
So usually 500 to 1,000 people. We don't generally do events that are smaller than that, like in our big virtual booth packages. Like we do
Sure.
have like private event packages, but that's a different. We can talk about that after.
Okay.
That includes photo, GIF, and boomerang,
Okay.
and it has basic branding. So we'll throw their logo on there and we'll match the color, but then the rest of the stuff is branded to us.
Okay.
They get email sharing with our our own basic email, and then they'll have the live gallery that's included, and we'll design one overlay for them. Very basic overlay, no animations,
Mm.
nothing like that. So that's what they get for $500 for the day.
Okay.
And you notice that I did not say background removal.
Yeah, yeah, that's a big one. And I mean, for a lot of Salsa users who have been using Virtual Booth at this point, I mean, this is something that's still relatively new, right? So it's almost something that people don't know exists right now, or don't necessarily know how to sell it. So tell us a little bit about where does background removal fall into your packages in terms of pricing and things like that?
It's so popular. And I
Sure.
think this is the number one thing that really helps with virtual booths, because everyone's at home, everyone's
Right.
sick of looking into everyone else's house, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so when you add background removal, like ours starts at $500. So right there,
Sure.
we're at $1,000 with that package. Basic package and background removal is $500 for up to 1,000 people.
Hmm.
And normally, we will give them anywhere between like up to 4 different backdrops that they can pick from at that point. And that's really been like very helpful for people. And a lot of times they only ask for like one. And then we're like, are you sure? Like people really like picking from it, So,
Right. Right.
and it just makes the gallery that much more interactive. And you can really
Sure.
do a lot of fun stuff with it too, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a great way to get really creative with your virtual booth. But so right there, like, again, we're at $1,000 at that point
Sure.
with a virtual booth for 1,000 people and background removal, because that is really a huge selling feature for any client that you have.
Right, right. And to kind of touch on the private party packages that you were talking about,
Mhm.
I think sometimes too, when we talk about pricing and we talk about these bigger events, there are definitely booth owners out there doing it right, and you're one of those people. But there are also a lot of people who weddings weren't really their thing, right? Maybe they did mostly birthday parties or baby showers and that sort of event. So we're definitely talking about a smaller group of people. So how do you price something for, a birthday party or, a baby shower or a smaller event where there's just less than, maybe 100 people?
So interesting thing about private events, and we haven't done a ton of them, so
Sure.
I don't have a lot of information to go off of.
Okay.
But from what we've seen is that these smaller, more personal events use way more photos
Yeah.
because people are, they're more attached to the person who's actually going to end up getting it.
Sure.
So you have to be careful about thinking that these, like, just because there's 100 people that are going to get that link, that they're not going to take like 5 to 10 photos each.
Right.
So then you end up with essentially the same gallery that you would have if you had 1,000 people at your event,
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. And I mean, you brought up a really good point too, even just having multiple overlays. Like if I'm at a party and I can take a photo on this virtual booth and there's multiple overlays, I mean, you can bet that I'm going to go and try every single one of those overlays, right? And so,
Yeah.
if we're talking about a bunch of combinations there, 2 overlays, 2 filters, I mean, that's at least 4 photos for me, if not more, because I want to, combine the different combinations and things like that. So that's a really good point. But pricing wise, where do you normally sit at? Is it pretty much the same or is it a little bit less? Where does that fall?
Yeah, we're at the same price. So
Sure.
again, we start at $500. We actually will not do less than 650.
Okay.
So 500 is our base, but then we also add on a couple of other little things that brings us up to 650 as our absolute minimum.
Sure.
So even for a private event, we would do $500. But then maybe what we'll do is we'll add a couple of little extra things, like we'll add
Got it.
extra overlays. Background removal is an iffy one,
Yeah.
like maybe if it's a friend.
Right. I mean, there's a
Then
cost
I'll add-
associated to it, right? I mean, there's a cost
There
associated
is.
to everything, but when we're talking about like an overlay, I mean, that's your time, right? So if you make a second
Yeah.
overlay, it's your time. Whereas the background removal, those are credits. It's not your time anymore. Now it's your money, and it's, definitely a little bit different. But you bring up a really good point. It's and this is the same as a physical booth, like an in-person event. It's all about the value that you're bringing up, right? The perceived value of what you're providing and what you're offering. And it's I think it's easy for us to forget sometimes because SALSA is really so easy to set up and configure. And I talk about this a lot in my onboardings as well, that for us to turn on a couple of filters, it's a couple of buttons, right? It's just a couple of clicks, but it's really how we sell it and how we position it to people that determine how much value people are going to get out of it or how much value people are going to see in it. Because we can talk it way up or we can make it sound like we just clicked a couple buttons, right? So
Yeah, and some people do that. I don't get that.
yeah. Don't undervalue yourself and don't undervalue your software just because it's easy for you.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that people know that. And I think
Can I
sometimes
give
people
you
just
an analogy for that?
yes, absolutely.
Even I need to be reminded of this sometimes.
Yeah.
But I was actually over. So I'm in a business park, right? And there's a hair salon right behind me.
Sure.
We're all kind of friends in this business park. So I went over there the other day, and we were talking, and I was telling someone, I'm like, oh, just take a picture with your phone and then send it to your computer, or like, throw your logo on top of it. And they were like, how?
Yeah.
Okay, valid.
Yeah.
I know why I need to do my job now, because
Yeah.
you don't know how to throw an overlay on a photo, Like,
Yeah. And it's easy to forget. Like I said, it's we become so used to a lot of this stuff, and it becomes second nature to us, right? At this point, a lot of us can make events with our eyes shut if we had to, right?
Yes.
I spend enough time in SALSA at this point where I think I could make an event in 5 minutes if I really had to. Don't do
I
that,
think I'm done with
please.
3.
Yeah. Like, don't do that. Do not wait until 5 minutes before.
No,
But
never.
could you do it? Yeah, probably, because you're comfortable with it. But that doesn't mean that your time is worth 3 minutes, right? It took you a long time to get to the point where you can make something in 3 minutes. So you have to value that, right? And and just like what you said, it's we become very used to and very comfortable with, oh yeah, that's easy, that's common knowledge, but a lot of times it really isn't.
Yeah.
And that's, this is completely off topic, but even when you drop off a drop off booth and you leave kind of like a troubleshooting guide, it can be very, very simple. Sometimes people just need to be told, reopen the app, and that's
Is
it.
it plugged in?
Yeah. It's it sounds almost ridiculous, right? But it's, there's a lot of truth behind it. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's I don't know. It's so easy to forget all these little things.
yeah,
But to go back to the private events, one of the other things that we do is that our overlays are all like people pick from overlays. We don't do
sure,
custom overlays unless they pay or like pay us to do it. So we just use the SALSA templates that come
sure.
with the booth anyways, and we give them like an option of don't give people too many
Yeah.
options. So like if you have like a birthday party, like give them two options
Yeah.
and they can pick one and
Right.
or you personalize it. You call it personalizing instead of
Right.
customizing. And then you just change their name, slap it on. It literally takes, a couple of seconds to do
Right.
that and then upload it into the app. And so that's where we kind of try to keep, our workflow at an absolute minimum
Sure.
and trying to keep the pricing down and still having like that extra value for those private events that are like, oh, well, there's only 100 people. Like I'm not a huge corporate party. It's like, I
Right.
get that. But it's the same amount of work if I do it for, 500 people
Yeah.
or 1,000 people.
Yeah. Totally. Totally. And it's yeah, I think it's just a lot of times people think about it too much, and don't overthink these kind of things. Especially now,
Yeah.
a lot of us have a little bit more time than we normally have in a normal season or a normal year, right? And so it's easy for us to overthink a lot of these things, but don't value
Yeah.
yourself at what you're worth. And that kind of takes me into my next point. And
Yep.
how do you price yourself, right? How do you know how much something is worth, and how much should you be charging for your time? And if you haven't already taken a look at the Photo Booth Academy, it's part of your subscription on SALSA. So take a look at it. It's included. There's a ton of really good content. And it is surprising how many people I talked to that just didn't realize this stuff was here or thought it was really for just beginners. But these videos are not just for beginners. They're really for anybody.
No.
And there's a lot you can take away from it. One of my favorite sections is honestly the building of a website one, right? You might already have a website. You might already have an existing business, but there's a lot that we don't realize. There's a lot that goes into building a website. Why, when we Google something, why do we choose option A over option B, right? And a lot of times it's not something that's obvious in front of our face. It's almost psychological, right? The way that things are laid out. How easy is it to get in touch with that person, things like that. So there are a lot of really good videos here. The one that I really wanted to draw focus on, and it goes along with today's conversation, is going to be the pricing one. And Kat, you are in these, so I will let you
Just
talk
a
a
few.
little. Yeah, you're in just a few of the videos. Yeah, if you don't know Kat yet, I don't know how you don't. But you do these pricing videos, and the one of them is the pricing calculator, where again, this is something that a lot of people don't know about. If you click on this pricing calculator video and you click on this resources tab here, you can actually download the pricing calculator that Kat uses both for her business, but that she also talks about in this video. So Kat, I'll let you talk a little bit about that calculator and kind of how it works and how does it get the numbers that it gets.
Yeah. And if you don't mind pulling it up,
Yeah.
because the YouTube's delayed, so I don't actually know what's
Yeah.
what's on the screen.
Yeah, it is. It is up whenever you can see it.
Okay, cool. So this pricing calculator is meant to help you really determine like the minimum essentially that you should be doing in terms of like pricing yourself, because it takes into consideration a lot of things that people don't take into consideration, which is how much time it's going to take you to set things up. And I'm not
Right.
talking about just setting up the event. I'm talking about email correspondence. I'm talking about testing. I'm talking about even, checking in on your subscription and trying to find certain assets and writing, like literally everything that goes into booking, pricing, planning an event, and then physically doing the event too. So
Sure.
it also takes into consideration some depreciation on your photo booth and as well as like hard costs. Now this can work with print booths, drop off booths, all that kind of stuff. And literally all you have to do is fill in the questions that are in purple. So anything that's in purple, you type in your amounts there, and then it'll tell you how much your total cost is, like what your base cost is going to cost you to run this event, including paying yourself
Hmm.
a good wage, because no one goes into business to make less than minimum wage.
Yep.
Uh, and then it'll tell you what to charge your client. So then it'll also tell you what your profit is.
Sure.
And, this really takes into consideration everything it takes to run a profitable business. Because I think that
Yes.
what a lot of people don't realize is they're like, oh, I'm charging $300 for a 6-hour event, and it's only going to cost me, they think it only costs them $100 to do it, and that they're making
Hmm.
$200 profit. You're not. You're
Yeah.
probably losing money.
Yep.
And yes, you're booking a lot, but you're still losing money every single
Yep.
time you leave your house when you're charging that little.
Yep.
So
And you're
you're not
doing
running a
more
business.
work than what you would
Yeah.
do at a minimum wage job a lot of times, right? Not to undermine minimum wage jobs at all, but
Yeah.
you are doing a lot of work and you need to
Mhm.
value that. It's yeah. This goes. One thing I always like to tell newer booth owners is it is a lot easier to sell a filter for $100 or for $50 than it is to tell them that the filter is worth $25, but you have to drive, you have gas, you have insurance, you have taxes, right? Because people don't care about that.
Yeah.
So it just goes back to, charge what you're worth. Don't undervalue yourself. And remember that there are a lot of other costs associated with running a business, right?
Yeah.
And there are things that we forget about that we don't realize right away. You brought up a really good point, wear and tear. That is a huge one. You are using this hardware multiple times. There is going to be wear and tear on the hardware that needs to be, fixed, repaired. Maybe you have to get something new in the future because you've worn it out, right? And those are things that are really important to consider that you don't see right away, but they will catch up. Taxes are also another good one. You've got to
That's
pay
it.
taxes. Otherwise, you won't be running a business at all. So,
You'll be running from something.
yeah, you'll be running, not a business.
From IRS.
So, yeah, I mean, there's just a lot that goes into it. And and you use this calculator for yourself too, right? So, I mean,
This is literally how we figured out our pricing.
yeah,
Mind you, mine's a little bit more, like, ours has grown into
sure.
a multiple tab document at this point.
Right,
But
right.
yeah, this is
But
how we
to get
started off.
started, yeah, for sure. And this
Mhm.
works with virtual booth. This works with drop-off booths. This works with, in-person booths. It works with really anything. So, make sure you utilize it if you haven't. If you're ever questioning your pricing, or even if you have pricing laid out and you're just not sure if it's the right pricing, double check this. And it's never a bad idea to look at what things cost. As time
No.
goes on, things get more expensive too, right? Gas
Yes.
can change a lot. So maybe the pricing you set up 2 years ago doesn't necessarily apply anymore, right? So definitely make sure you check on that. And your experience is also really worthwhile. That's something to be charged for. So let's see. We have a couple questions here in
I'm
the
sorry, I was in the
chat.
chat just.
No, you're good. You're good. I,
I
I
think
kept
it's
seeing them come in, and I'm like, I don't want to stop the conversation, but we got a couple questions. So let's see. Jay, hello. I'm a new 360 booth owner. Any advice on pricing? Have you noticed a drop in 360 interest and more virtual? Kat, I'll let you kind of take over this. I think you have some experience with 360 booths, right?
We have a few.
Okay, cool. I thought so.
So all of Canada right now is shut her down. Like,
Yeah.
Canada is not open for business right now unless it's takeout and drive through.
Yeah.
So yes, we have had a huge decline in 360 inquiries for that exact reason. But I can tell you
Sure.
that right before the lockdown happened, like, it was going off like crazy. And I will also say that I accidentally launched a Google ad into the US that was being served. And for some reason, we woke up the next day and had like 3 inquiries for 360 booths. And I'm like, what is happening? But they were all in the US. And then I
Wow.
realized that I had accidentally selected North America, like, as a whole, and
Yeah.
not just Canada.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a huge amount of interest for 360 booths. The problem with 360 booths is that they are not a commodity item. And I'll talk more about this in my clubhouse that is actually happening today at 7 p.m. with Mir. We're going to be talking all about every type of booth and what's happening in pricing, which is kind of funny. Today is all about pricing.
Yeah.
But 360 booths are a luxury item. They're not meant to be mainstream. And,
Right.
there might be a huge increase in requests for them, but people just can't afford them because they're not,
Sure.
it's not an affordable booth. So for us, virtual right now is by far, like I said, what we're getting.
Sure.
I know tons of people that are actually doing a lot of virtual booths. I know a lot of people are quiet about it, so I'm not going to name names. I'm going to respect who they are and that they want to stay quiet. But there's some big names that are doing like, you know, 5 figures a month, if not pretty close to 6 figures a month on virtual booths. So
Yeah.
there is lots and lots of business out there right now.
Right, right. And one thing about virtual booth, we've talked about it. We've mentioned it in a lot of our live streams lately. But virtual booth, you are not limited geographically. So just because your area is shut down and things aren't going well in your area, there's still a lot out there. There's still a lot of interest out there. And at the end of the day, it is virtual, right? So even if your area is locked down, that doesn't mean that other companies or other businesses or other people aren't having virtual events of their own. So, I mean, honestly, don't stop advertising virtual booth. If you haven't done it already, get out there and make sure you are advertising it. And, some areas will be slower to get traction. I've talked with booth owners who it took a little bit longer to get some attention to their virtual booth. But if you don't get something right away, don't let that discourage you. Stick with it. Keep advertising it, because I guess there's really no way for me to guarantee anything to you, but it is popular and a lot of people are being very successful with it. A lot of people are also being very quiet, like Kat said, about their success. So, with that said, keep going. You might not hear a lot about it, but there's people out there who are making, just like Kat said, 5, even almost 6 figures with their virtual booth. So definitely stick with it.
Yeah, and I think that they have I say they. Most people now have it a bit easier. Like us pioneers, we had to like educate people on what a virtual booth was. Like it was a heavy uphill battle trying to get people to understand what virtual booth is or was. Now people actually come to us and they're like, "I need a virtual booth." Like they know what a virtual booth is. They've seen it. They've experienced it. So they definitely, they don't need to have that giant sales pitch and huge demo and all that kind of stuff all over again. So we did the work for you guys. Come on.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a lot of people too. You have to remember that if you tried to do virtual booth at the beginning of last year, I mean, the beginning of last year, not very many people knew what was going on or like what this virtual remote life would be looking like. Right. But it's been a year. For better or for worse, it's been a year. So people have had a year to learn what virtual life and what virtual experiences and virtual events they see what they look like now. And people are understanding them a lot more than they did just a year ago. So keep that in mind, especially if you haven't maybe continued the advertising and marketing of it. It might not have worked a year ago at this point, but it might be just fine now. So if you haven't tried it, get out there and definitely make sure to try again.
There's some tools that we can share too, because there's the email templates, there's the pricing. Sheet. Let me see if I can find the links. I really need to prepare for these better.
They're afterthoughts. It's hard. It's because there's so much content out there to share, and we have shared it before, but it's really easy to miss a thing or two. It's hard. It's sometimes I can't even remember all the content we send out there, and somebody reminds me of it. I'm like, oh yeah, we did have that at one point.
I know. So, you guys have to subscribe to the email newsletter, because I give a lot of information in there, and you'll get it from like Cameron or Cassie or Amber. Like we sit down and talk about everything that gets sent out. So let me find you the link. And I'll post it in the chat, and so you can download like email templates. These are email templates that I've used to like send out to people to get them interested. The key is in the follow-up, and this is where people fail all the time. They're like, well, I sent the emails and they didn't write back. Like, okay, did you follow up? Because how often do you respond to a cold email, from the first time? Like I generally don't, but usually by the second time I'm like, oh, I should at least tell them no. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, and people are busy too. Sometimes people see, like, count how many times I've gotten an email for something or a call for something, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool, but they caught me at literally the worst moment, right? Maybe I had a huge, like an extremely busy day or whatever, and I forget about it, right? It's not my priority. I didn't go looking for it necessarily. But then they follow up, and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Like, yeah, now I have some time, or I'm gonna have time next week. Let's sit down and talk about it a little bit more. And had they not followed up, that would have never happened, right? So yeah, that's a very, very good point. Make sure to follow up, and reach out. It also makes it seem less salesy in a way, right? If you reach out and you follow up and you just see how people are doing. People right now, they're longing for a connection. They're longing for, that sounds kind of weird. They're longing for a connection. They're longing for human interaction. I'm not saying you have to date your clients, okay? No, but people are longing for interaction, and I think a lot of us miss it, right? So reach out to those people that you've followed or that you've sent content to, and follow up with them, see how things are going. Again, you never know if this might be the time that they're actually interested in something. So.
We'll go on to the next question.
Yeah. So the next question is from Capture Co. Photobooth. How would you monitor the amount of people? You mentioned up to 1,000 people. Yeah,
so we don't monitor it. Yeah. Again, us pioneers. After we did a bunch of events, can I call myself that?
Yeah, sure.
Cat Photobooth Pioneer.
Yeah.
It does not have a good ring to it.
Oh man. Change your email signature.
Oh my God, I will. We did a few events, and we realized that, like, you know, even if there's 1,000 people, it depends on the event, but not everyone's going to take their photo in the photo booth. And then you have some events where, like, oh, we have 500 people and everyone takes 5 or 6 photos, and you're like, ugh. But law of averages generally tends to work out. And so what we've done is, like, we keep it at essentially 1,000 people or less. Kind of gives us a really good idea of how many people are going to use the photo booth. So just like a photo booth in a real event, you know, but you're limited in how many photos you can take at a real event, but you're also limited because, like, we found that at live events, only about 10 to 20% of people actually took the photos in the photo booth, whether it was because we ran out of time or because that's only the amount of participation that we actually got. But it's no different in the virtual world. You generally don't get everyone going into the photo booth. You generally get like 20% of people, 30% of people who actually participate. So it just made it easier for our clients to understand when we did our pricing that way. And also because, again, like, the laws of averages will allow you to kind of figure out how many captures you need to do, since you get, you know, you're essentially charging per capture, just like you would charge for prints in real life. You charge per capture and or background removal at the same time in the virtual world. So we don't monitor, like, if they go, like, if they hit 1,000, then we could tell them, okay, you guys have hit 1,000, and then turn off their photo booth.
Sure.
But again, that's actually never happened to us. We did have one event where they actually, well, that's not true. We did have it happen about 2 weeks ago, but we didn't turn off their event. So you can look at their gallery. You can tell, you can see how many photos they've taken. And then depending on how many photos they've taken, you can then just turn off the link, and then they'll just get, when they try to use it, it'll just say it's not available. And so if you really want to monitor it, then you can definitely do it that way. But because SALSA Booth gives you the 1,000 credits for free, I could see why you would want to, right?
Right. You have to make sure that you don't go over.
Exactly. I mean, it's not that expensive if you do, and especially not considering, like, what we pay for some of the softwares out there are just crazy expensive. So with SALSA app, it's like, it's amazing because you get your 1,000 and then you're good to go. So that's one way to do it for sure. And I thought that there was a follow-up question for that one. Oh, it was kind of the same one. Yeah. So Capture Co, just check out the live gallery, and it gives you a count of how many captures have been taken. So if you really want to do it that way, you can just keep an eye on the count for that event.
Yeah, and for example, just even jumping into the booth from last week, I mean, from the live, oh, there's Kat again. I told you can't miss her. Doesn't matter where you go. She's there. Up here in the kind of like the sneak peek is what I call it, of the analytics page. You can see exactly how many captures and how many shares have been done so far. So that's a really easy way to just, take a look, see how things are going. But obviously this updates too, so you can always just keep your eye on this page. And I recommend doing it as well during a live event. You don't necessarily have to be there, glued to the dashboard every single second of the event, but checking in every 10 to 15 minutes, it's not a terrible idea. Just make sure that people are interacting and engaging with the booth, and just kind of going from there. So.
Oh, Mary actually had another question on this.
Yeah.
If you go over the 1,000, when do you pay for extra? Does it shut it off? So you get an email right now when you hit like 750, right?
Yep, exactly. And if you do go over, so you get that warning email, and if you want to purchase more, it's $150 for an additional 1,000 credits. But those credits, the ones that you purchase, not the free ones, but the ones that you purchase, they do roll over month after month. So if on month 1 you use a total of 1,200, you still have 800 that are going to continue to roll over. Second month, you do 1,500. Well, now you have 300 that are still rolling over. So it is really affordable because of the fact that they roll over. And your free 1,000 credits, those automatically refresh and renew every single month for you. So
nice.
Yeah. You'll if you run over, like I said, you'll get that email before that even happens, so you can figure out what you want to do there, whether it's, limit people more or, just get the extra credits and have them handy. But yeah, like I said, they roll over, so you're never losing anything, and nothing's ever going to waste. So Amber shouting out, I hear the episode on Instagram marketing is amazing. It certainly is.
All the episodes are.
All of them are, yeah, without a doubt.
I remember filming those. That was like the first lockdown, and we weren't allowed to have anyone. So I had to go to like my studio, get all my equipment, and then make a recording studio in my basement where I can only have one person.
Yeah.
So it's like sound, videographer, like person in front of the camera. Wow, it's been a while.
Yeah. It's honestly crazy. I mean, this is completely off topic, but it's absolutely crazy how fast this past year has gone. Like it is nuts. We are almost at the end of February already, and I cannot believe it. It is wild. So
yeah, but all of these courses, there's so much information, and you don't have to watch it all now either, because sometimes it's like you might have a question or you're faced with an issue. Like go look at Academy and see if it's in there. If you guys don't, like if you're watching this and you're not part of SALSA app, like there's a 30-day free trial. You get access to the Academy. Go check it out. Like there's tons of information, and I'm pretty sure there's still even episodes that are coming out.
Yeah,
I think I saw
the newer one came out.
Yeah.
And they're short too. That's the best. Like if there's one thing I like about these videos more than anything, beyond the actual content itself, is the fact that they're short and they're really easy to digest. It's not a bunch of, I'm not going to have 25 billion hour-long episodes to watch. They're really anywhere from like 2 to 10 minutes, and they really focus in what is the most important thing you need to know about this topic. And then if it doesn't interest you, or maybe it doesn't apply to you right now, you can just go to the next topic, right? And you can always come back and watch the rest of them later. So there is a lot here. Like Kat said, this is free as part of your trial. So if you haven't experienced it, you haven't watched it yet, definitely make sure you sign up for that 30-day trial. We'll throw a link in the chat here so that you can find that easily if you haven't before. And you don't need an iPad for this either. This can be done on the web app. So it can be done on a computer, on a tablet, on a phone even. So, if you wanted to just watch videos as you're out and about, maybe you're waiting for something, you can, go through a couple videos pretty quick. So yeah, definitely a lot of really good content here.
Too, right? Like I think a lot of the DSLR people who own Legacy or Queso, they're like, well, what about virtual booth? Like, how can I do that? Like, you can just sign up on SALSA. You don't need to have an iPad. You literally do it from your computer, and it's all computer based. So you can definitely launch your virtual booth company addition, or the addition to your company for virtual booth using your SALSA app without having to buy an iPad. Totally.
And it might sound kind of confusing because they're both called SALSA, right? But yeah, just like Kat said, you don't need a booth. I know a couple SALSA users who have been really focused on virtual booth, and they haven't even touched their booth in a couple weeks, right? But they're still using SALSA. They're still having these events. And if you have used SALSA and you do have a physical SALSA booth, setting up a virtual event, we have a bunch of videos on it walking through how they do it, some of the best practices. But setting up a virtual SALSA event is almost, it is really identical to setting up a physical in-person SALSA event, but a little bit easier.
Yeah.
So there's not really an extra learning curve there, other than just sending the link. But that's, copying the link and sending it out, and that's really kind of it to make a virtual event. It's really, really simple. So.
And if you've subscribed to this YouTube channel, all the videos
And
are in
you
here.
smash that like button.
Yeah, let's do that again. Because remember last week, if everyone's watching, you guys can give us a
Yep.
little like. Because right now
Yep.
it's sitting at 0, and that makes us sad.
Yeah. Yeah. If you
Just
are
a little
here
like.
and you're watching us, like the video. It really does help out.
I'm gonna be the first one.
Yeah.
I like this.
And also, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel yet, make sure you do so. We always have a bunch of new videos, whether it's for an update or new features that are coming out. But also, if we do go live and maybe you forget that it's Thursday and 2 o'clock because the week is just flying by, you will still get notified that we're live and you can come and chat with us. Or if you miss it or you're busy, that's not a problem. You can always watch the live streams after the fact as well.
Woohoo, we got some likes.
It always works. It always works.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. We really appreciate it.
This makes my giant coffee. This is the kind of coffee day it is. The bowl.
Wow. No, I have one like that too that I had not that long ago. So, so the next part of this that we wanted to kind of focus on, we've gone through pricing, and if you've been in all of our live streams, you're probably sick of hearing about pricing. So let's talk about marketing and reaching out to people. We've kind of already talked about it a little bit before. We mentioned it, right? Reaching out to people and making sure you follow up. But obviously, when you have these virtual booths and you have a demo booth on your website or on your social media, you're collecting all that user data. But a lot of people that I've spoken with, a lot of SALSA users, they just don't really know the best way to reach out to those people, right? You might have this list of 100 email addresses, but how do you reach out to them? What's like an appropriate email to send them? Kat, tell us a little bit about how you reach out to people. How do you send these cold emails, right? Because not everybody's really comfortable with it, or maybe doesn't have even experience with it.
Yeah. Okay. We tried everything.
Learn from Kat's mistakes.
I have a pioneer, remember?
Yeah. Owner of next live. Sorry to interrupt. Next live, I'm introducing you as Kat from Modern Photobooth and Virtual Booth Pioneer.
So we started just actually one-on-one emailing these people and saying like, hey, we saw that you took a photo in our virtual booth. Like, do you want to set up a time to chat where we can go over like some of the features? A lot of the people that first came through were just other photo booth owners.
Sure.
So we didn't set up meetings with them.
Right.
So if you do want to, creep my website, please at least use your photo booth email so that I don't reach out to you. Because it takes time from my staff.
Yeah.
And anyway, so we would reach out to them and just say like, hey, let's chat, and that worked really well. But making it personal, so we didn't like just send out mass emails. And then in terms of doing like straight cold emails, we don't actually do that a lot. So we did send a lot of emails to our existing clients and more like educational stuff. So just kind of like letting them know what we're up to, sending them demos, that kind of stuff. And you really do have to send out a lot. Like it's a little bit discouraging at first because you're like, I've sent out 3 or 4 emails, like I haven't really heard anything back. And then out of nowhere, it's like 2 or 3 of them come back and be like, I remember like a week ago or a month ago, you sent me an email about this. Like, can we chat? And following up is important as well. So, that I do find that emails work. If you have a big email list, like some people who are doing in-person stuff, like for example, we have an install at a bridal shop, and this is a good place for people to do this, right? So we collect those emails and we have like the disclaimers and all that. And then we actually, in the email where they actually get the photo, there's like a little bit of a promotion that they get. No one ever responds to that. No one reads that email because there's something way more important in that email for them right now, and that is their photo. Right. So again, we follow up, and from our follow-ups, that's when people actually respond. So it like, you gotta follow up. I know it seems like you're annoying people. You're not. You are definitely just getting back to the top of their head. They probably forgot. And if you are annoying them, guess what? They're just going to delete your email.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
I mean, people get enough emails as it is, and a lot of
Mhm.
the emails that people get, they're not personal, right? So if you add even just the slightest personal touch, people appreciate that. And it really does make a difference. So, reach out to people, kind of like what Kat was mentioning too, this kind of the call to action section. If you're doing some sort of install, or if you're just doing a lower, more basic bare bones event, maybe it's, one of your lower end packages, don't hesitate to advertise yourself or offer a special. I know everybody kind of feels a little bit differently on this, but even offering some sort of special discount or additional add-on for booking with you, just make yourself stand out. And even though it's not intrusive, it's such a small section that if they don't want to read it, they won't read it. Don't worry. But if they are interested in seeing, having an event soon, if that catches their eye, they're going to be all over it. So definitely something that is worthwhile there.
Yeah, and I think the other thing I should just add in here is about like the promotion. We rarely ever discount our photo booth, and what we
Sure.
do is we add like an upgrade that they get for free, usually
Sure.
like a free hour or like a free print upgrade if it's like an in-person booth for like a wedding or something like that.
Sure.
Um, little things that like have really really high perceived value and like lower costs for us, because
Yeah.
for me to have somebody there for an extra hour, I'm already paying them for like chunks of time
Right.
anyways, so an hour really makes very little difference to me.
Right.
The paper one is a little bit more expensive. Like if I upgrade them from single prints to duplicate prints or something like that,
Right.
it might cost me like $20.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not that bad.
Right. No, and especially it's always important to remember that, yeah, you might be spending a little bit more on that person, but you also have to remember everybody who's going to be at their event, right? And that's just even more user data, even more phone numbers, even more email addresses, and so you're just getting more and more out of it. So yeah, always, and you make a very, very good point. Don't undervalue yourself. If you maybe aren't comfortable selling as much, I would probably go with what Kat says and make sure that you add additional value there, right? Make it seem like it's more of a value. That way you don't talk so much about like a discount percentage or a discount amount or something along those lines. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Capture Co.
discounts.
photo booth. Do you create unique demos for each business you reach out to, or is it the same link for everyone? That is an excellent question, and one that I actually get from a lot of people. So, Kat, what's your stance on it, or what do you normally do?
So we have a bunch of demo booths that we have already set up depending on like what features we want to
Sure,
show off. And we use the same demo booths every time.
sure,
And like there's maybe once or twice that we've made custom ones based on like their exact event type of thing, but
right,
no, usually we have one demo booth that has everything enabled.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then that way we can kind of show them everything. They can play around with it. They can see like what would work best for them or
right,
what they like. Like some people like have no idea that you can do boomerang or video. Like the video feature is so underrated.
mm-hmm.
Underrated? Is that the right word? Am I? Yeah, it's like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
No one else is doing video virtual booths, especially ones that can record sound and
right,
have that into a live gallery. I don't think you guys realize how hard it is to get video into a live gallery.
yeah,
Have you ever tried uploading a video to your website? Like you have to go to YouTube and then you have to like link it, and it's just
yeah,
it's way too much trouble. So that is huge.
yeah,
And especially for virtual booth, you can put an overlay on it. Like that is something that is a premium upgrade
right.
and something that you can sell for a lot more because of the video and recording feature that it has. So that is like that alone is worth the $99 a month for Salsa app.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you said it best. It is very not just underutilized, but
Yeah,
under
maybe that's
advertised.
yeah,
Like
I know.
it's people just don't use it or they don't think of it, but it really is a huge upsell, especially if you think of it from a more emotional side of things, right? Like if you're having a micro wedding and people can leave, think of it like a virtual guest book, right? Instead of sending a bunch of videos to somebody, because that's really popular, right? Especially now, I can't count how many Facebook groups I've been added to because it is so and so's birthday and they want a video from every single person wishing them
Yep.
happy birthday, then make a collage. Well, instead of doing that, you can just do this, right? And have everybody go to the link, make a video on their own time, and it's all in one place, right? You don't have to make this collage or do anything, over the top because it's all already here. And that is a huge, huge thing. And I've seen it myself happen a lot. within this last year. So definitely another way to certainly sell it. And yeah, I kind of recommend the same thing that Kat does, have a bunch of different demo events, having them with all of the features and really just showing all the value that it can provide, but having some that maybe are themed a little bit differently. Maybe you have some holiday themed ones if it's a holiday, theme party, maybe a birthday themed one if it's a birthday themed party. That way you're showing them what's most relevant to their event, but certainly don't take the extra time to make something that's customized for somebody if you don't know that they're going to close with you. Granted, if it's a very big client, you can you can risk that a little bit more to sell them on it. But in general, don't make anything too personal until that you have that booked with that person. Mm-hmm. So,
yep,
perfect. I think that is really everything that we were going to cover today. We kind of went through it pretty quick. We're last finishing last call for any questions. And as a reminder, guys, so a couple things. So like Kat said, make sure that you do subscribe to our email newsletters if you haven't already. That way you get all this content that we send out, whether it's the pricing guide or the email templates, whatever it might be. You definitely don't want to miss that. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. That way you're always getting notified when we are going live. The next time we'll be live will be in 2 weeks from now. So we go live every other week at 2 p.m. Pacific time. What else am I missing? Clubhouse. We need to share the Clubhouse link.
I got it right here.
Perfect. So Kat's going to share in the chat the link to the Clubhouse where she'll be talking a little bit tonight about pricing. Again, today's all about pricing.
Yep. I'll be there with Mir too. So Mir's from South Beach Photobooth Company. So you're getting a little bit of American, a little bit Canadian. So you're getting views from both sides.
Yeah. No, and the Clubhouses are a lot of fun too, because you hear the perspective from so many different people. It is unfortunately only available on iOS devices. I think you still don't need an invite. But a lot of people have it at this point. So there's somebody out there who has one that I can almost guarantee.
Yeah. I need an invite, and someone will give it to you.
Yeah. I've seen some people that I certainly didn't expect to be on Clubhouse sign up for Clubhouse. So people have the links out there. So just ask around if you don't have one. And I think that's it. Are we missing anything, Kat?
Nope. I'm just checking. No more questions. Oh, sorry, Charlie. I know every time we do these, it's like super late for her.
Charlie, it's like at 2 a.m. for me. I'm gonna try to be there. So
Charlie, just message me. We'll chat after.
No, I'm just messing with you. One last question. Yeah, do you include your company info, social handle, website, etc. at all levels? When do you remove that? That's actually a very, very good question. Because we did talk a lot about it.
Best questions.
Yeah. Capture code. Like, honestly, really good questions. You're kind of leading the live for us right now.
Yeah. Please come back.
Yeah, come back in 2 weeks. These questions are great.
Yep. David, come on. Mir is from Florida, not the same as Can't all be from California.
So no, that's a very good question. When should you remove it? Obviously, if it's a demo event, always have it all about you, right? Because it's a demo, so make sure it's all about you. But Kat, when do you start removing it? I normally recommend to people when they get onto their highest end package, kind of like the all, the all inclusive, has every single feature package. But what do you normally do?
So if you look at the pricing, we have the basic branding, which is included in the $500 per day one. That includes our branding on there. And then there is the upgraded branding, which is an additional $250. And at that point, that's when we remove it. So if they want all of their information down there, or, you can get really creative with the areas at the bottom.
Yeah. You
can make them into call to actions. You can have additional wording down there. So it really depends on like what you want to do with it, but they do have to pay extra for that. And that's when we remove it.
Sure. And do you remove it from everything, including like the logo, for example, in the lead section, or is that something that you leave on there?
No.
No? Okay.
We take it all out. Like once they upgrade and they pay us to remove our branding, it's all gone. You will never know that it was a modern photo booth.
Perfect.
Photo booth.
Cool. That's good. Yeah. Any other questions? I think we are good. Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for joining us on this one. We had a really, really good turnout today,
Yeah,
which
thanks so
is
much,
which
guys.
is awesome. We appreciate having you all here.
Can I
Make
get
sure to
one more
come
like?
back. Yeah, yeah. One more like. Come on, come
One
on.
more so we can get to 10. I like
um,
round numbers.
yeah. No, but it was really great seeing you guys all here. Thank you so much for the really great questions, and we will be back in 2 weeks from now with another YouTube live. So definitely make sure that you're here in 2 weeks at 2 p.m. Pacific time, and we will see you in the clubhouse tonight, hopefully. So Kat will post a link in the chat and on Facebook too, if anybody's on the Facebook page. That way you guys all have easy access to it, and we will see you
Yay,
there.
10. Thanks.
Awesome. See you guys. Have a really good end of your week, and we will see you in the next live.
Bye-bye.